Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH. Today we're looking at Zada Hedron Grinder. This is a mono-red commander, and Zada says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Zada Hedron Grinder, copy that spell for each other creature you control that the spell could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. So obviously, any targeted spells that we can use to target our own guys, outside of removal spells obviously, we get to multiply by however many creatures we have in play. So clearly we want to, 1, go wide, and then 2, play spells that benefit from targeting. So targeted cantrips, for example, would be an easy enough one to understand. So with that said, let's go ahead and look over our instants and sorceries. So we've got ones that create tokens, so things like Dragon Fodder, Forbidden Friendship, Ordling Outburst, Franco's Command, Ral's Reinforcements, and Rally at the Hornburg. So these are all basically mostly 2 mana for 2 tokens. This is so that we can start to go wide. And then we have our targeted spells that benefit. So things like Ancestral Anger, Renegade Tactics, Witch's Mark, which is a Tormenting Voice variant that happens to target as one thing on it. So we can multiply that as well. We've got Balduvian Rage, Crimson Wisps, Dreadmaw's Ire, which is until end of turn, target attacking creature gets +2, gains trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact the player controls. So given enough creatures, we are not only beating down, but we're potentially casting a mass shatter effect for only 1 mana. And we've got things like Expedite, Might of the Meek, which is yet another cantrip, Panic. So various cards like that are what we benefit from Zada. Now, aside from that, we've got some other things that make tokens, things like Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin, and Loyal Apprentice. Since we're casting spells that can potentially draw us a lot of cards, we hypothetically want some mana to go along with that, so that's where cards like Bergie and Jeska's Will come into play. And we're also making a ton of X1 creatures, so Skull Clamp. Our main combo is the Dualcaster Mage Molten Duplication combo. Easy enough to eventually find this off of all the cards we'll be drawing. Some Red Blasts and Burnout to protect from counter spells. More fast mana in Sticker Goblin, Plunge, Petal, Vault, Simian Spirit Guide, Skirk Prospector. Also, a lot of the tokens that we generate off of our various token generators happen to be goblins, so we can use this in combination with those to generate even more mana. Since we're going to be making a bunch of tokens, it is also best that we have the ability to haste everything, so Mass Hysteria comes in handy. Our lands are pretty straightforward, however, we should note things like Care Keep and Soakins On as ways of generating creature tokens off of our lands. Some more protection, and then a bunch of ramp, and in particular, we're going to skew towards having creatures as our form of ramp, so things like Legion Crawler, Ironmer, Monakin, because these will also count towards the creature count for Zada. And we've got our removal. And then our stacks pieces, we are in mono red and have mostly basic mountains as our lands. And therefore we can take a lot of advantage of things like Blood Moons and From the Ashes and Ruination and Winter Moon. Now again, if you and your play group are not particularly fond of stack strategies, you can obviously cut all of these cards and still the deck will basically function the same way. Torpor Orb does counter the ability of Dualcaster Mage. However, that's really the only thing that it messes up, and you can just point shatter effects at Torpor Orb if you get to that point in the game and really need to unlock your Dualcaster. We also have some various other creatures that generate a bunch of tokens as well, Goblin Instigator, Mog War Marshal, and Krenko. Then some other things to note, Frontline Heroism. This is a 3 mana enchantment that says when it enters, create a 1/1 creature token with haste, and whenever you cast a spell that targets only a single creature you control, create a 1/1 with haste. Then copy the spell targets the token. So more Zada-esque cards, and then Leyline of Resonance, which most people are probably familiar with, basically duplicates your spells as well. Now, under the considerations, there was obviously a lot of other cards that we could have played, things like Roaming Throne to double the Zada trigger, or other things that make more tokens, or Shared Animosity, or other things that generate a bunch of fast mana. I ultimately opted not to play any of these, but these are all potential options, especially if you decide that the stacks route is not for you. You can easily replace those cards with any of these cards, and you should probably have a pretty good time. But with all that said, that is going to do it for Zada Hedron Grinder in EDH.